The next morning I was up early again, showered and left before Sherry woke up. I had a lot to do. My appointment with the lawyer was only scheduled for 3 hours, so I had plenty of time to take care of all the financial matters. My first stop was the HR department, where I changed the life insurance and 401k beneficiary from Sherry to Shelby and Ryan. I received a few strange looks from the woman who helped me, but I didn't feel like I owed her or anyone else an explanation for my actions. My next step was to cancel all of our joint credit cards and get a new one in my name only. Then it was time to go to the bank, where I transferred half the money from our joint checking and savings accounts to another bank in my name. I knew I had to do something about our house, but I was confident that the court would allow Sherry to stay there with the children, so I put off any action on that front until I had a chance to consult with my lawyer. At 3, I met with my lawyer and found him to be a fairly nice guy. He warned me that I could expect her to get custody of Shelby and Ryan, and I would give the house and half of everything else to my wife, even if I had proof of her infidelity. I told him I wanted him to write a request, and when he told me that I would never get away with taking almost everything from her, I told him not to worry. I was pretty sure I could convince her to agree to anything I wanted. He was not happy, but gave in to my demands, saying that everything would be ready for her to be served on Friday morning. I also asked him to prepare documents to file a lawsuit against her boss and the company he co-owned for deliberately destroying my marriage. These papers also had to be ready by Friday morning. I was ready. When I got home that evening, I was cold toward Sherry. Honestly, I had it all already, and I just wanted it to end so I could move on with my life. I knew there was still a lot of pain and sorrow ahead, but I knew there was no turning back, and either way, I would finally share the pain and suffering with my wife and her lover. After a quiet dinner with some conversation, I retreated to my man cave, printed out the photos of the lovers I was going to use, and printed out the captions, doing everything without interruption. I also had time to write a letter to Greg Allen's wife, enclosing some prints of the large photographs I used on the posters, and pointing out that I had plenty of video to supply her in case she decided to divorce her husband. Shortly after 11, I went into our bedroom to make sure Sherry was asleep, then went to her car, took the recorder out from under the seat, rewound it, and listened to what was on it. I only heard one side of the conversations, and there seemed to be a few actual business calls, but there was one to Greg. "Hello, darling. Thank you again for this day. Me too. I always miss you after we were together. Yes. Oh, God. Would a whole week together be heaven? Yes. Maybe we can soon. We can host a must-attend real estate convention." Laughter. "Yeah, baby. We're meeting on Thursday afternoon. I can't wait either. Bye, baby." I was surprised to find that what she said didn't hurt as much as before. She didn't know how soon she would become his exclusive property forever, and, of course, the fact that in a day I would destroy their sweet life gave me warm feelings. Revenge was a powerful medicine. I replaced the tape with a new one and put the recorder back under the seat, where I hoped it would record evidence of her torment the next day when her world came crashing down. I barely slept that night. Not because I was heartbroken. I went beyond that. No, I had trouble sleeping. I was anticipating everything that would happen the next day. The last time I woke up early, while Sherry continued to sleep, I stood and looked at the woman who was the love of my life, the mother of my children, the woman I expected to spend the rest of my life with. I felt tears welling up in my eyes as I realized I had slept with her for the last time. Never again will I make love to her. Never again will we hug or talk about our future. We had no future, and as I turned and walked away, I wondered if she knew the price she would have to pay for turning her back on me. She may not have known, but she would soon find out. I showered and left the house, had breakfast at the diner, and then stopped by work briefly to tell my secretary that I would be gone all day. I called Dan and told him what was about to happen. He wished me luck, told me to be careful, and let him know how it went. I quickly stopped by my attorney to make sure everything was ready for my wife and Greg Allen to be served the next day. After that, I called my wife to tell her that I would pick up the kids from school. My mom wanted to have them for the long weekend, so I'll stop by the house around 3:45 to pick up some clothes and take everything straight to Mom. My wife thought it was wonderful, and in her sexiest voice told me that on Saturday we would have time to spend the day in bed. Of course, I told her and hung up. I got to the point where I just couldn't listen to her bullshit. I was in no hurry to return home. By 12:30, I was parked around the corner, waiting for the rally to begin. My car was mostly hidden from view, but I could see any car that pulled into my driveway. I didn't need to see the garage door go up and down. My wife and lover were predictable, to say the least, and I was aware of their routine. At 12:50 p.m., I saw Sherry's car pull into the driveway, followed 5 minutes later by Greg Allen's car. I should have felt pain knowing that my wife and her boss had sex in my marital bed while I sat around the corner waiting for them to finish, but it stopped hurting me. I couldn't believe how calm I was as I imagined all the things I knew they did together. It was almost like a memory of a cheap movie with little plot but an amazing ending. At 10 minutes to 3, I saw asshole Allen's car pull out of the driveway and drive away. 10 minutes later, Sherry followed him. As soon as they left, I drove into the garage and closed the door. I had work to do and not much time to finish it. I went to my office and checked the recording of the afternoon session. It was all there. But this time there was a difference. This time I didn't care. Once I was sure the footage was safely downloaded to my hard drive, I spent the next 10 minutes carrying all my pornographic photo signs I had made up the stairs, placing them by the front door, where they would be handy. Then I packed a toothbrush and some clothes for Shelby and Ryan and put them in my car. My only regret was how much pain I was going to cause to the two children I loved more than anything in the world. I was consoled by the fact that I did not cause them the pain that they would soon feel when they realized that their mother and father were no longer together. No, all responsibility lay firmly on the head of their mother. It was she who decided to start a long affair and completely destroy her family. I drove to school at 3:15 and picked them up as the final bell rang. I told them they were going to spend the weekend with Grandma, and since she always spoiled them terribly, they were delighted. 45 minutes later, I dropped them off and returned home, where I put my plan into action. And this brings us back to where we started. A bed, a table, and a rug on the lawn with all the signs, the neighbors are watching, and Sherry comes home horrified to learn the truth that I know everything. I didn't hear anything from Sherry that evening, although I thought I would. The police visited me an hour after Sherry left. They sympathized with me, but said that I had to remove the signs and photographs, otherwise they would have to punish me for disturbing the peace and obscenity. I took them off. They did what I wanted them to do. My wife saw them, and from the look on her face, I realized that her life had begun to go to hell. I woke up Friday morning with a world-class hangover, but despite it, I felt strong. Yes, I was sad and lonely, but I knew that I had the strength to bury my anger and hatred long enough to take revenge on my unfaithful wife and her idiotic lover. Around noon, I pulled back the curtains on the window and saw that the carpet, kitchen table, and bed were gone. All that was left was the mattress and the sex-stained sheets. I'll drag them away or burn them later, I thought. The rest of the morning passed without incident, but by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, all hell broke loose. I was confident that Greg Adams's wife had received the letter and photographs that morning, and my lawyer called me to let me know that both Sherry and Greg Adams and his associates had been served at work. He said he was there when they were served, and Sherry screamed and fell to the floor sobbing, while Greg Adams completely ignored her as he stomped around the office calling me a bastard, threatening to kill me. However, his partners locked themselves behind closed doors for 15 minutes before returning to hand Sherry her final check and tell her that her services were no longer required. They also presented Greg with a check for his share of the partnership. When he told them he had no intention of selling to them, they quoted to him the section of their corporate charter dealing with morality and sexual fraternization with employees. The charter clearly gave them the mandate and right to sever all relations with him and his mistress. At the same time, the receptionist at the front desk told him that his wife was calling on the phone and demanding to speak with him. She received the letter and photographs and wanted to tell him not to worry about returning home and let him know that she would file for divorce the next day. I later learned from the husband of one of the women who worked at the agency that after he was escorted out of the building, everyone turned their backs on my soon-to-be ex-wife, and she lay on the floor for a good 30 minutes, sobbing and moaning. At one point, she apparently pulled herself together enough to leave the building, but no one was sure where she went. The next day, Sherry finally called me. Her voice sounded terrible. She wanted to know where the children were, and did they know? I told her that they were safe with my mother, that they did not know and would not hear any dirty details from me. She thanked me for that, and then asked if she could come in and pick up some of her things, and of course I told her she could. All she had to do was tell me when, and I would be gone for a few hours while she got what she needed. She wanted to know if I could stay and talk to her, and I told her that I really had nothing to say to her, which made her start crying again. "You know, I'm very sorry," she said. "You need to know how sorry I am, Jack, and that I never meant to hurt you." I couldn't help it. I actually started laughing. "How the hell could you tell me that you felt sorry for Sherry and you never meant to hurt me? What do you think I'll do when I find out? Congratulate you both. I didn't want you to find out. I love you, Jack. I've never loved anyone but you. I don't think you really believe this, Sherry. How can you? After you told your lover how much better he made you feel than I ever could, how he was the only man who could complete you. Jack, I never said such things. How could you think that I would ever say such things to him? Because I have tapes of you saying it all to him, Sherry. Every word, every shame you tried to put on my head in front of him. Every demeaning thing you could ever say about any man that you told your lover about me, your husband. I have nothing to say to you, Sherry, and there is nothing you can say to me that would make the slightest difference in how I feel about you. I love you, Jack. You have to believe that I have always loved you, only you. I don't know what made me say all this to Greg. You have to believe I didn't mean anything like that. I was just trying to boost his ego because he always told me how his wife always put him down. So let me clear things up. You constantly brought me down in front of him, belittling me and my pathetic attempts at lovemaking so you could stroke his ego and strengthen it because you felt sorry for him. Is this your story? You felt bad that his wife humiliated him, so you not only humiliated me, but you also had sex with him in every possible way for the last 6 months, just to make him feel better. Yes, Jack, I never wanted to hurt you. I didn't mean anything like that. If you didn't mean anything like that, then why did you do it? I'm surprised it took me this long to see how pathetic you are, how ashamed I am for my blind stupidity. I don't love him, Jack, I love you. Please, Jack, if you can find it in your heart to give me a chance to make things right, I will give you all of me. You have to believe it. I made a mistake, but this cannot be the end of us. Let me show you. Please, Jack, please don't leave me. Sorry, Sherry, I don't love you, and I didn't leave you. You left me. The things you did to him and the vile, demeaning things you said about me over and over again for over 6 months prove that you don't love me. You cannot love someone and wish them such pain, harm, and humiliation. I think you're disgusting, Sherry, evil and disgusting, and I can't wait for you to get out of my life. The only reason I'll ever have anything to do with you is because of the kids. Remember them, Shelby and Ryan, the children we created when we were still a family? I want to spare them as much pain as possible, but I don't want to spare you any of it. What I really want is for you to feel all the pain you caused me. You and your lover, Greg, both deserve this, and I want you to feel it. Why did you tell his wife about this, Jack? It wasn't fair. It's not fair. Are you completely crazy, Sherry? What you did to me and our children is unfair. What the hell do you think I told her? Number 1, he destroyed my family by having sex with my wife over and over again. Number 2, he took over the only body on this earth that I thought was mine, and he made her tell him how wonderful he was and what a pathetic failure I was. And number 3, his wife needed to know what an absolute non-entity she was living with. What she does with this information depends only on her. They have children, Jack. Me too, Sherry, and I want to protect my 2 children. I feel sorry for his children too, but it is not because of me that they may face the possibility of a future without their father. It's his fault, and yours too, Sherry. I refuse to take any blame. I don't want a divorce, Jack. I will fight for our marriage. There's nothing to fight for. Honestly, I would rather die than be chained to you for the rest of my life. I know you love me, Jack. You can't just turn it off because of one such incident. My God, you are delirious, completely out of your mind. Have you read the divorce petition that was filed with you? No. Why on earth? If you just listen to reason and let me make amends, there won't be any divorce. If you can't do it for me, at least do it for Shelby and Ryan. They need a mother and father, Jack. They will always have a mother and father. We just won't be married or live in the same house together. If you had bothered to read the petition, you would have seen that as long as you agree to joint custody of our children, you can stay in the house and have half of all our worldly goods. What is not in the petition, but what I am telling you now, is that if you do not sign and agree to the more than favorable terms that I am offering, I will share videos of you two with every person you have ever known, including your parents, sister, and her children, and every other person I can think of. You won't do this, Jack. You can't hate me that much. Oh, that's where you're wrong, Sherry. I hate, and nothing on earth will stop me. Fight me, and I will ruin your life forever. And yes, Sherry, I can hate you that much. Please, Jack, don't do this. Sign the divorce papers, Sherry. Please, Jack, let me make it up to you. No, sign the papers, Sherry. Oh, God, please. Sign the papers, Sherry. And I hung up. Sherry signed the papers, and the divorce was final in 6 months. She lives with Shelby and Ryan in the house we once shared, and I live in a condo a few blocks away. We are in the same school district, so there were few interruptions in the children's schedule, although the pain of the divorce was felt by both of them. Shelby told me that their mother admitted that she had made a big mistake, and our marriage could not survive, but we both assured the children that we would always be there for them. I have no idea what Sherry told her parents and sister about the breakup, but since they're talking to me, I don't think she told them it was my fault. As for my mother, it was just something that neither Sherry nor I could pass up. I had one last chance to pick up the recorder from Sherry's car, and the voice track was memorable. On the way home, she called Greg and thanked him again for the wonderful day, but said she thought I might be suspicious and suggested we put it off for a couple of weeks until she was sure the coast was clear. Then, arriving at the house, she was confused, wondering what all these people were doing, standing on the street and looking at our yard. Then, when she saw the signs and photographs and realized what I had done, her screams almost broke the recorder. When she left, she cried and said, "What did you do, Jack? What did you do?" And then I think reality hit her like a bucket of ice water, and her story changed to, "Oh God, what did I do? No, God, please, what have I done? Please, God, make this all go away." She managed to call her lover, and when he answered, she screamed, "He knows, Greg. Jack knows everything about us." And then I just cried for a very long time. It's been over a year since the fires of hell washed over us all, and I'm slowly starting to put the pieces back together. I'm not dating yet, and most likely won't be dating for a while. The thought of repeating what I just experienced makes me very wary of another serious relationship. Shelby told me that her mom went on a date once, but came home crying, and as far as she knew, never dated again. Sherry found a job as a secretary in a retirement village. I never found out if she's still in touch with Greg Allen, and I don't care. Greg Allen and his wife got divorced, and he couldn't find a job. You see, even though I didn't send videos of their fun to anyone Sherry knew, I wasn't that kind to Greg. It seems that many companies are terrified of hiring someone who has a reputation for seducing married women and ruining their marriages. Sure, I blurred Sherry's face in the video, but I left all the audio intact. I recently heard that Greg's ex-wife is dating a nice guy, a police officer, and it looks like it's getting serious. Good for her. Oh, by the way, about Greg's former company. To avoid bad publicity, they made a generous offer not to sue them. I agreed, and as far as I understand, all this is behind us. Now I am only interested in my children and their future. Maybe one day my future will become important to me too. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.